Most people think negotiation is a battle of wills. They think it's about who can shout the loudest, lie the best, or bang their fist on the table until the other side flinches. They are dead wrong. Negotiation isn't a war. It's a high-stakes game of information gathering. Every conversation you have, from asking for a $20,000 raise to convincing your toddler to eat broccoli, is a negotiation. If you don't know the tactics being used on you, you aren't a participant. You're a victim. Today, we are stripping away the mystery. We are going to cover every compulsory tactic in the book, from the psychological anchors used by billionaire investors to the subtle linguistic cues used by elite FBI negotiators. By the end of this, you won't just know how to win, you'll know how to control any room you walk into without ever raising your voice. The BATNA, best alternative to a negotiated agreement. Before you even open your mouth, the negotiation has already been won or lost. Professional negotiators spend 80% of their time on preparation. The first tool you need is your BATNA. This is your power. It is your plan B. If this deal falls through, what do you have left? If you are interviewing for a job and you already have another offer, your BATNA is strong. If you have no other options, your BATNA is weak. Never enter a room without knowing exactly when you will walk away. Power belongs to the person who can walk away without looking back. The reservation price. Closely tied to this is your reservation price. This is your floor. It's the lowest number or worst terms you are willing to accept. You must keep this number hidden in a vault in your mind. The moment the other side senses your floor, they will stop offering you this ceiling. You must also understand the ZOPA, the zone of possible agreement. This is the sweet spot where both parties' ranges overlap. Your goal in the first 10 minutes is to figure out where their range starts so you can see if a deal is even possible. Psychological anchoring. Now let's get to the table. The first few minutes are the most dangerous. This brings us to psychological anchoring. Human psychology relies heavily on the first piece of information offered. If you're selling a car worth $30,000 and you name $35,000 first, the entire conversation now revolves around $35,000. You've dragged the center of the negotiation to your side of the court. Be the first to name a price, but back it up with data so it doesn't seem insane. Bracketing. If you aren't comfortable naming a single number, use bracketing. If you want $100, ask for a range, say between $115 and $130. People tend to gravitate toward the lower end of a given range because it makes them feel like they've won a deal. Since your lower end is still above your target, you both win. However, be careful of the fairness trap. "I just want what's fair" is one of the most manipulative phrases in existence. It's designed to make you feel like the bad guy if you disagree. When someone uses the fairness anchor on you, don't get defensive. Simply say, "I apologize, I clearly missed something. How did you calculate that fair value?" Force them to justify the math. Mirroring. As we move into the tactical middle of the discussion, we shift from math to psychology. This is what the FBI calls tactical empathy. The first tool here is mirroring. Mirroring is simply repeating the last 3 words of what the other person just said. If they say, "We just can't do that, our budget is totally capped," you respond with, "Capped for the year?" and then stop talking. They will instinctively feel the need to explain why it's capped. They will give you more information. Information is leverage. Labeling. Next is labeling. Don't ask, "Why are you angry?" Instead, label the emotion by saying, "It seems like you're worried about the delivery timeline." Labeling an emotion de-escalates it. If you're right, they feel heard. If you're wrong, they will correct you and give you even more data to work with. You should also pivot to no-oriented questions. People feel unsafe saying yes because yes is a commitment. No is protection. Instead of asking, "Is this a good time to talk?" ask, "Is now a bad time to talk?" Giving them the power to say no makes them feel in control. The flinch. Sometimes the negotiation gets dirty. You need to recognize high-pressure maneuvers to survive them. The most common is the flinch. When they name their price, you must react physically. A gasp, a wince, or a look of pure shock. If you don't flinch, the other side thinks their offer was reasonable. A flinch makes them immediately question their own position. Good cop, bad cop. Then there is good cop, bad cop. One person is on your side, while their partner is the one being difficult. Call it out politely. "Look, I know you're trying to help me out while your partner plays the heavy, but let's look at the numbers together." Shine a light on the tactic, and it loses its power. The nibble. You must also watch out for the nibble. The deal is done, handshakes are happening, and then one side says, "Oh, and you'll throw in the shipping for free, right?" Never give a nibble for free. Respond with, "I'd love to do that, but we already agreed on the price based on the current terms. If we add shipping, we'll have to reevaluate the unit cost." The Ackerman model. When it comes time to actually close the gap, use the Ackerman model. This is a systematic way to make offers. If your target price is $100, set your first offer at $65 $75. Then calculate 3 raises of decreasing increments, $85, then $95. Then finally your target of $100. Your final offer should be a non-round, ugly number, like $100.32. Decreasing increments suggest you are at your absolute limit, and the precise number suggests you've done deep math to get there. Silence and the pregnant pause. Throughout all of this, remember the power of silence. The most underutilized tool in the world is the pregnant pause. After you make an offer, shut up. Most people are terrified of awkward silence and will fill it by making a concession or lowering their own price just to stop the discomfort. Let them talk themselves out of money. The small fish strategy. You can also use the small fish strategy. By acting slightly less informed than you are the Columbo approach, you encourage the other side to help you. "I'm sorry, I'm a bit confused. Can you help me understand how we get to that number?" It lowers their guard and makes them reveal their logic. Deadlines and time pressure. As the negotiation reaches its end, you must handle the deadline. Negotiations expand to fill the time allotted. If you have a deadline, don't hide it, but use theirs against them. Most people will make significant concessions right before a clock runs out. If you can stay calm while they are panicking about the time, you win. The bogey. This is a classic tactic where a negotiator pretends that a minor issue is actually a huge deal for them. They will act as if giving up a small clause is a massive sacrifice. They do this so that later they can ask you for a major concession in exchange. Always ask yourself, is this point actually as important to them as they're making it sound? The red herring. Related to the bogey, a red herring is a fake demand. They bring up an issue they don't actually care about just to have something to give up during the trade-off phase. It's a way of making their side look more flexible than they actually are. If you see them drop a demand suspiciously easily, you've likely found a red herring. The salami tactic. Instead of asking for a massive concession all at once, which would get an immediate no, the negotiator asks for tiny, thin slices of concessions over a long period. By the time you look back, you realize you've given away the whole sausage. To stop this, you have to look at the cumulative effect of small changes rather than each one in isolation. We've covered everything from BATNAs to the Ackerman model. These are the tools of the trade. But here's the most important thing I can tell you. The best negotiation is the one where both people leave the table feeling like they won. If you use these tactics to screw someone over, you might win the day, but you'll lose the relationship. And in the world of business and life, your reputation is the only currency that never devalues. Use these tactics to find the truth, to uncover hidden value, and most importantly, to ensure that you are never taken advantage of again. Negotiation isn't about getting what you want at any cost. It's about navigating the human ego to find a path forward. It's about understanding that every no is just the beginning of the conversation, not the end. It's about having the discipline to prepare and the courage to ask for what you're worth. Most people go through life accepting the first offer they're given. They pay the sticker price at the dealership. They accept the first salary figure they're quoted, and they let others dictate the terms of their existence. But once you understand these tactics, the world looks different. You realize that almost everything is negotiable if you know how to speak the language of human psychology. Don't be afraid of the conflict. Negotiation isn't conflict. It's collaboration disguised as a struggle. It's the process by which two people who want different things find a way to move forward together. Go out there, be bold, and remember, in this world, you don't get what you deserve. You get what you have the courage to negotiate. If you master these tools, you won't just improve your bank account, you'll improve your life. Thank you for sticking through this masterclass. The next time you sit down at a table, remember, stay calm, label the emotions, anchor the price, and never be afraid to walk away. I'll see you in the next one.